today, I think good to have a few of you who's going to join us to discuss a little bit about maybe I can say your future, right? I mean, or towards your future. I mean, that is to basically write a personal statement for your grad school application, right? So I think to get started, you guys don't know each other. I also don't know you guys, okay? So maybe it's good to have a quick self-introduction, right? So I do it first, okay? So can call me Tom, okay? So people who knows me rarely call me professor or doctor, okay? So we're very, I would say, U.S. mentality, right? So we don't really go by the title, okay? Just simply call me Tom is fine, okay? So I'm a professor at HKLSS. So I'm in the division of life science, and my lab mainly focus on adult stem cell biology, right? So particularly in the skeletal muscle, and we're very interested in understanding how stem cell reside in the skeletal muscle, particularly why are they able to retain their potency and what happens during aging. I mean, we all know that the muscle somehow, I mean, like every single one of us experience, I mean, we have a old grandmother at home, right? I mean, usually their locomotion has a little bit of issue when they get very old. So we're very interested in understanding why, I mean, what happens to that, right? So, and generally speaking, we're very keen on understanding the concepts of biological aging, okay? So that's what we do in the lab, right? So I also spend a good amount of time dealing with, I would say, different kinds of outreach activities, like what I'm doing with you guys today. And I mean, by the way, the whole thing will be recorded, okay? So even though it looks like there are only a few of you, I mean, it's intentional. I mean, the reason for that is because, I mean, first of all, we have COVID situation, right? And secondly, I mean, we actually would like to have a kind of a roundtable discussion, and would definitely need your help to make the whole thing a little bit more vibrant, okay? So I think maybe to get started, let's talk about some of the grad school criteria, right? Are you ready? Do you think, are you ready? Are you guys ready? Okay. So Adrian, tell me, why are you ready?
Tell me why. Am I ready? Graduating?
You're graduating? Agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So then, what did you do to say that? I mean, to make you say that you're ready for grad school? You're good. I don't know. A good student. I have a very high GPA, maybe.
Not really.
Okay.
High, but
Good enough.
it's
Yeah.
satisfactory, I would say.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Okay. So what else?
What else? Probably I got a little bit of internship experience in the real business world. I've worked in 2 startups before.
Okay.
One of them is cancer screening and diagnostic company,
Okay.
and another one is doing telemedicine during
Okay.
COVID. And one of them is a more mature company, more established, I would say, but the other one is a relatively more raw and startup company. And yeah, so basically I've experienced lots of real business work over there and have quite an amount of experience of starting a startup. So lots of different stuff like marketing materials and proposals and pitch decks.
Okay.
Those stuff I've touched on that during my internship.
Okay, but you have not answered my question. So why is this experience actually be I don't know what did you learn in the startups, right? I mean, you have a lot of experience, but how does that better prepare you for grad school?
the major mindsets and attitude that I learned from the startup is you need to be flexible, because actually I'm not a marketing guy. I hate doing marketing stuff, but throughout my entire journey in the startup, I need to force myself to prepare those stuff. So I learned how to overcome the challenge, overcome the thing that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
And also, you need to prepare yourself for any uncertainty during the time, because in startups there are lots of things going ups and downs and lots of different stuff coming at any time. So basically, I would say one of the major things that I learned from startup is the mindset, it's the attitude to work, real work, which you got to.
So that's good. So I think if I hear that correctly, two keywords: flexibility, right? And the second is you do well. If I may, adapt to new challenges, if I may. Okay. So good. Okay. Serious. Any thoughts?
Well, I do. I have. You mean why?
Why are you ready?
Because similar to Adrian, that I also had some sort of work experience outside academia, and I also have gained some insights, like my passions. I've found my passion consolidate my enthusiasm for a particular career. So I guess if I am going to work in that career.
So I'm gonna stop you for a second, okay? So if I'm the interviewer, I'm gonna fail the two of you. Okay, I'm sorry. So the reason for that is very simple, okay? So you guys are not answering my questions, right? So, and this is actually the focus of today, okay? How do you be no BS, okay, in your personal statement? Okay, how do you actually pinpoint to what your potential school would like to hear, right? So yes, don't get me wrong. Your experience is very valuable, okay? But what did I say? Why are you ready for grad school? So let's dive into this particular question a little bit more, okay? So in order to get ready for grad school, what kind of mindset do you think you need to carry? Any thoughts? Or what are the things that you think it will help you to get into your desired school?
You have to be hardworking.
Hardworking, thank you. Okay.
You have to be self-motivated.
Self-motivated, very good.
We need to be able to collaborate with others.
Very good. This is very important point, okay? So collaboration, okay? Any other thoughts?
Need to be determined to certain area.
So very determined to certain area, okay? So
Research topics.
yes, very good. Thank you, Claire. Okay, so you need to decide on a topic, right? You need to make sure that you know where you want to go, basically. Okay. So, and I should also mention that when I say are you ready for grad school, I take some prerequisites. Okay. I take that you already have a reasonably good GPA, right? So, the GPA is kind of I would say a no-brainer, right? So, and this, do you think GPA, what do you think about GPA? Why do we care about, taking a high GPA student into a grad school program? Do you think it matters? And why does it matter?
It matters because it kind of a good indicator, a good reference that reflects your intellectual abilities.
Okay, but in a way, right? In a way, I would say a GPA of 2.0, it would not mean that they're not smart, right? So that does not give a very good differentiation factor, right? But what is the reason why you need a GPA, a high GPA? Any thoughts? No?
To get a ticket for interview?
To get a ticket for interview. But I would say that's also not exactly true. The reason for that is because I suppose many of you aspire to go abroad, right? Wanting to go to the top universities in the world, right? The stack of applications tends to be a lot, okay? So given a department in the US, usually they would not take more than 6 to 8 students, okay? And their application, the stack is over a few hundred or even 1,000 applications, depending on where you go, right? So your chance of getting that in, to that particular program, I mean, I don't have to tell you that every one on that stack, right, probably carry a pretty decent GPA. Agree? Right? The question is, how do you distinguish yourself? Right? So GPA, in my opinion, okay, so by the way, what I'm telling you today is, of course, solely my opinion, okay? So, but I do have some track record, I can tell you that, okay? So now, GPA, the only thing that, in my opinion, it will show you, it will show a prospective, either employer or a grad school, persistence, right? You're dedicated, right? By having a high GPA, of course, the first thing is you follow orders, right? You will actually do all the homeworks, right? Study hard, right? So I think by having a high GPA, I think there are two things that I can say for sure. You must be a hardworking person, right? And you must be very persistent, because this is not about one course, right? This is about many, 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 many courses, right? Throughout the 4 years of your undergraduate life, right? So what I want to downplay here is also your GPA, okay? So you actually need that, of course, right? But that's not enough if you want to get into a good graduate school. Okay, so now, with that said, GPA is a prerequisite, okay? So we also have discussed a little bit more about, kind of the soft criteria, for example, Claire mentioned about, you got to choose a particular subject, right, or a particular program, right? So let's get down to a little bit more details. So action items. What else do you need, do you think? You guys are, right now is October, right? You're year 4, you have exactly 2 months, right? December 1st is usually many graduate schools' deadline, right? So what are you preparing? What are the things you think you need, in addition to the personal statement that we talk about today? Any thoughts? Good, okay. GRE. So, good thing is not every school require GRE these days, right? A lot of US schools are dropping the GRE requirement, right? So, okay, GRE. Any thoughts? Louder. Chloe, right? Yeah.
Relevant experiences to the major that you want to apply.
Okay, so relevant experience will be good, but not necessary, right? So I know a lot of people who is not even doing science. They're not in the science major, but they would like to do science. They spend a little bit of time, getting that experience, and then eventually get into the grad school, right? So I would say your interest is more important, right, in that particular aspect. So any thoughts? Yeah, Claire.
You need to do some research and need to contact PI regarding the program.
More specifically, elaborate a little bit more. You're getting there.
Like.
Okay, you said you need to get some relevant experience, right? Do some research, and
And according to my interests and research topic, we need to contact to PI accordingly.
okay, contact which PI?
Like in the graduate school, like if the professor is working on a certain topic that I'm interested in.
So yes and no. Okay, so I think what you're mentioning applies to certain countries, but not others, right? So for example, if you're in Hong Kong, if you're going to the UK, if you're going to some of the Canadian schools, okay, so you do exactly what Claire said. That is, you go look at the particular PI that you're interested in, right? And then you go, write to the person, right, for a potential, discussion for a position in his or her lab. Now, many other schools, right, and actually more and more universities, I should say, do the US ways, which is department-based admission, right? So which means you will actually apply, just like how you did your undergraduate university application, but you will, of course, that's not exactly Hong Kong, I would say, but usually if you're in the US, what you do is you apply to the school, right? You apply to the school and you have to give your CV, your personal statement, the whole application package, right? So there are two ways of going about it. But if I supplement what Claire mentioned about the research experience, that's very important, okay? And where do you get your reference letters, right? When I say, are you ready? Have you even talked to some of the professors, right? Did you get your free reference letters in line? Are they going to be a good reference letter? Do they know you well enough? Are they going to say something that really, on a personal level, can that professor actually describe who you are? Right? So these are the kind of, to me, over the years, you probably must have a professor or two who will help, who will be willing to help you, right? So now, with that said, it's very important that you contact them, and it's even more important that you should understand a professor actually is very busy. And how many students do we have? We have a lot of students, right? How many schools are you going to apply? Usually you guys apply for 10, 20 schools. Is that a good thing? I don't think so. Okay, so the truth is, everyone as students, they tend to apply to a lot of schools. They think that, I'm gonna just try my luck, try my best to apply to as many schools as possible. But I can tell you that based on statistics, okay, based on our statistics, people who either get into most of the schools or they don't get into any schools. And there's a reason for it. Okay, so hopefully today, after this particular session, you'll get the kind of insider know-how in putting your package together. Okay. Okay, good. So maybe I'll go to my first slide. Let's talk a little bit about the kind of things we actually talk a few things about. Are you ready? Okay. So for example, these are by no means extensive list of items, but these are things that off my head immediately, things that I would expect an undergraduate student will be ready for. Okay, so first thing, why do you want to go to grad school, right? Very importantly, I have seen a lot of applications saying that, well, I've been preparing for grad school all my life. Okay, why? Why do you want to go to grad school? What is the purpose? Why do you care? Why do you want a PhD? What does the PhD help you? Everyone has a different answer, right? And you're there to actually tell the prospective, university in why you're interested in getting into grad school. Now, of course, we have already talked about a little bit about your interests, right? Claire pointed out something very important, that you need to choose a program. But if I step back for just one step back, right? I will say, what is your career objective, right? Or to some degree, what is your career goal? Why do you care? Once again, what is your career objective? What do you want to do after you get your PhD? When you're done with your PhD, what is your plan? What is your near-term, medium-term, long-term plan? Do you remember that? I hope you do. Okay, that's very important. Now, this is what Claire mentioned, right? Have you decided on a particular program in a particular university? And the follow-up question is, why this program? Why this university? That's actually very important, right? Why? There are many. There are in the upwards of a few hundred schools who offers PhD program. Why us? Can you actually tell your future school, why do I want to go there? Okay. So now, lastly, I have a few more on the other page. But for those of you who are interested in a master program, particularly the MSc program, right? Do you have a plan to pay for it? They're expensive, right? So and I'm sure most of you know that PhD program usually has stipend, right? PhD program also are eligible to apply for many different scholarships. Of course, you need to be good at it, right? With that said, right, there are some programs that are, you got to pay for it. So then, in that particular scenario, then you got to think of a plan in how to pay for this program. Okay, so now a little bit more, right? Do you have research and professional experience post-undergraduate or during undergraduate, right? So, you guys are all, for the most part, still in your undergrad career. Do you have some kind of research activity, or maybe Adrian mentioned, working in a biotech, some internship experience? And more importantly, I don't care about what you do. I care about what you learned, right? So this is why I stopped both Sirius and Adrian earlier, right? Yes, your relevant experience is coming from your work experience, of course. But what is the soft skill that you have learned? Particularly, more importantly, what is that soft skill that will better equip you to be successful in your grad school career? Can I already tell the grad school committee that I'm the one? You should take me because I know what I'm doing. Okay, so your experience should be tailored to some of the soft skills that you think it will be important for your future PhD career. So I also put that, extracurricular activity. For example, iGEM, right? Some of the or different kinds of science competition, or generally speaking, any kinds of outreach activity, right? You join maybe Hong Kong Life Sciences Society's program. What did you learn from that? Right? These are all very interesting kind of opportunity that the local NGOs are providing, right? So what did you learn from there? Now, research it's also sometimes about volunteering, right? So if you are going to a medical school for research, have you actually dived into some medical research? Right? Have you volunteered in some of the hospitals? You know, understanding what's the need? Or during your local or exchange program, or to some degree in our university, we also have some undergraduate research opportunity program, right? And or for example, your final year project that most of the universities offer, right? What kind of things that you learn? In addition to, I'm very good at running my Western blot, doing PCR, right? Yeah, I know you know how to do it. Do I care? I'm sorry, I don't. Because that's expected. You're going for your PhD. And if you cannot even do your PCR, there's a problem, okay? So you don't want to write that into your personal statement and saying that during my final year project, I mastered the technique of PCR, Western blot. Yes, I know, you should know, right? So I think, was it Nicholas who mentioned about the GRE, right? So for those schools that require GRE, I think by now you should have already, done with that, right? So usually people will, this will be more for the third year students, right? So usually, you should, prepare that in advance for the reason that you might not be able to get your desired score in one go, right? So you should definitely do that. And I would say generally speaking, this couple of years, starting this couple of years, many schools basically lift the requirement of the GRE, but if you're confident, won't hurt to do it. Yeah, so I would say it is something that is in a gray zone. I lean on doing it rather than not doing it. So now, so that's the last one is the reference letter, right? So whether, you have already have some contacts, right, that someone can actually tell people who you are, right? Can I actually say, Claire is very good at certain things, right? So that's very useful, right? That's very useful for your grad school application. Okay, so these are in my terms, you should be ready for, the kind of items that you should be ready for. Okay, so sorry, I took almost half an hour to just ask one question, right? Are you ready? Okay, but I think to some degree, this is something to me is the most important, right? You have to be ready for it. If you're not ready for it, no problem. You can be a research assistant, right? Spend an extra year trying to equip yourself to be a better person, right? The science journey is actually a zero lump sum. You spend more time here to prepare for grad school, and you become more aware of what you want. Eventually, when you get into the PhD program, you may spend less time, right? So, there are a finite numbers of things that you need to achieve, okay? So, and at one point, you're gonna stumble, okay? So it can be during your grad school application, it can be during your PhD, it can be during your postdoctoral time, right? But the winners are always the ones who can overcome these issues, right? So I would say, generally speaking, don't care about the time too much. Don't care about whether you can get into the grad school right after your undergraduate graduation, right? So, but try to understand yourself and ask yourself the question, are you ready? Right? So because that actually matters. If you are immature, okay, then when you get into the grad school, you're going to suffer anyways. Okay? So now I want to bring out one last point. Are you mature? Okay? So for the personal statement, what I really care is whether you are mature. Okay? Why do I care? Why do I care maturity? Anything? Anyone can chime in here? Chime in here? Any thoughts? Why do I think it's important that you're mature? What if you drop out? I lose a student in my program. That's bad. That's bad for the, I mean, if you remember what I said, usually a school tends to have only a few students per department, right? One dropout will mean, a good 10% of the students are gone, right? That's not good for the school. And that's also not good reputation for the school, or the department, I should say, right? So it is very important in your personal statement that you can deliver the maturity kind of component. Okay, so now with that said, let's talk a little bit about the essential component of a personal statement. So now we talk about, a little bit, 30,000 feet, what you should have done, some of the things that you need to be ready for, right? So now in a personal statement, this is actually, once again, probably the most important piece of writing maybe in your life, okay? The reason for that is because I already mentioned a GPA or CGA, everyone has the same, right? I mean, if you don't have a 3637, right, it will be very difficult to get into a first-tier university in the US, right? And if that's what you're aiming for, everyone has the same kind of GPAs, right? So then the distinguish factor will then lie on what you write and how do you convince people that you're worthwhile. Okay, so now, first of all, what is the objective of your statement of purpose? Anyone can actually help to talk about that? What is your objective?
Showcase that you're capable of doing.
Wrong. What is your objective? Objective. Any thoughts? Nicholas?
I don't know, show your personality or something?
Think simpler. What is your objective? Why are you writing this personal statement?
To tell the reader who I am.
Huh?
To tell the reader who I am to illustrate myself.
Wrong. Objective, right? What is your objective?
To get into the school.
Exactly. Right? Come on, guys. Objective is very simple, right? To get into the school. But I mean, I should say, even though I say you guys are wrong, it's wrong for my question. But all the items that you guys mentioned, of course, very important. Those are the content of your personal statement, right? But remember, your objective is to get into that school. And you're surrounding your materials to tell people why you should take me, right? Why should I be one of the graduate students in your program, right? So usually what that is, the first paragraph that I will make clear is why? What is my objective, okay? And you have to, of course, supplement it in your flavor, right? Why, right? I mean, my objective is to get into the school, right? And how does this particular PhD program help you to actually achieve whatever future career that you want to be. Okay? So now, are you writing concisely? So, in our first question, right, I was kind of stopping Adrian and Sirius. So, you have to write really concisely, okay? You have to speak very concisely. If you do what you just did during the interview, good luck to you, okay? Think about how you deliver your materials, right? Do you feel that, when I speak, is there any nonsense, right? So you have to really deliver. In the personal statement, usually, it's little over maybe page and a half, right? You don't have a lot of content space to deliver your, whatever that you want to say, right? So, generally speaking, the rule of thumb is the following. You write a paragraph, you go reread it, delete each sentence at a time. If it does not actually change the content or the overall meaning of your paragraph, does that particular sentence belong to the paragraph? Maybe not, right? So we have to write very concisely. And why do we care to write concisely other than the page and a half physical hard limit that you have? The truth is, I have a stack, as a professor, I have a stack of applications on my desk. How much time do you think I'm going to read this particular piece of work that you put together? Not a lot of time. Yeah, maybe overestimating, right? So the truth is, I'm going to skim through a lot of personal statements, right? I will only look for those ones that actually catch my eyes, right? Then how do you actually make a eye-catchy paragraph? What should you do? I'm sure every single one of you have gone into some kind of writing lessons before. Tell me, in your English literature or English writing lessons, what do they teach you? How do you construct a paragraph usually? Okay, thank you, Adrian. Start with a topic sentence. And then?
Elaboration evidence.
Say it again.
Elaboration evidence.
Okay, that elaborating evidence, I will call it descriptions, right? And then? Don't you guys have to end with a conclusion? And what is that conclusion of that paragraph? Or of every single paragraph? What is the conclusion that you want to let people know?
To conclude that I'm good for this program.
Correct, right? So you gotta tell people in different ways why you're worthwhile, right? Every single sentence should end with, certain experience actually make me better equipped to certain grad school, right? So these are the delivery of the paragraphs, right? You need to make sure that you are able to write very concisely to the point, okay? Very, very importantly, to the point. Okay, so now, are you describing your soft skills? I think I have already elaborated that a little bit, right? So we mentioned we don't want to, it's not that we don't want to write a fancy technique, but I think more importantly, I would like to hear how do you troubleshoot it? How do you actually, through that process, learn something that you can adapt to other particular challenges that you may actually face during PhD. Right? So these are the one type of soft skills, right? So are you going to some journal clubs in a lab meeting? If you are, what did you learn? What do you think you learned in a journal club? Anyone can tell me? Presentation skills, thanks. What else? How do you critically evaluate a piece of journal, right? So do you actually know how to read? Do you actually know how to access a particular journal's, whatever experiments that are in their paper? Is it convincing? Can you pick out the details? Can you find out the experimental details within the paper so that you can apply to your particular experiment? Right? So these are the kind of, if you just say in the statement, I regularly present in journal clubs and lab meeting about my results. Yeah, I know, right? Just like you do your experiment. So I would say one of the common mistakes that people do is to describe what they do only. Of course, that's important, but you're gonna have to actually elaborate and try to tell people what you have learned in that experience. Right? So I will kind of lump that into the thinking of soft skills. Okay? So now with that, right, what did you learn in your research studies in addition to the technical aspects of your experiments, right? So which is kind of what I already mentioned. Okay? Lastly, I have already mentioned it earlier, right? Are you a mature individual, right? The last thing that I want in a grad school program is someone that is emotional, they break down, right? This is a long journey, right? If you go to the US, average is 5.5, 6 years, and it can get up to 8 years. Are you ready for it? Right? So are you mature enough to take on to this challenge? What are you going to tell people? What are you going to tell your prospective school that makes them think that you're mature and ready to take on to the challenge? So what I said, all these needs to be squeezed into, one pager, a page and a half maybe. Okay? If you can deliver that, people will be impressed. So right now, what I want to do is to have a little discussion about some of the personal statement. Okay, so I actually prepare some of the statements that over the years I collected. Okay, so and I would like to hear what you think. Okay, so the first one. Any thoughts on the first paragraph? A little boring. In what way?
Like, it's like a history of life.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel this is, this is the beginning of your paragraph, right? Or the beginning of your statement. You got to make a punch, right? Is he making or he or she making a punch? Right? And, do I really care what program you're in? Maybe, but maybe not also. Do I care about where you go exchange in, how your interests? Probably not. Because once again, the first paragraph should be telling people, what is your objective? What is your career objective? Right? Does it deliver that? Very, very mildly, right? A little hint to it, but not direct. Not direct, right? So these are things that you don't want to do, Okay, so you want to be direct. You want to tell people we're scientists, right? So we should be able to tell people exactly what we want, right? So that's not exactly. Okay, so second paragraph, what happens there? You like it? This person do quite a bit of research, looks like. What's the problem of this paragraph?
He or she is talking about what he or she did, but not right what they learned.
Yeah, what he or she has done, right? So, I mean, is that what you're going to do? Okay, so Claire, you shake your head. So, what are you going to do then?
I would rather emphasize on what I learned instead of what I need.
Exactly, right?
Soft skills.
So I think there are a lot of problems for this particular paragraph. You know, first of all, there's a lot of acronyms, right? And the acronyms has no full name. How would, I mean, if I'm not the area of expert, how will I know what these are about, right? And more importantly, you know, do I really care about myosin 10? You know, how do they function in filopodial formation? Maybe, right? Maybe, yeah. So, but I think what I will be more interested in understanding is how this particular experience actually shaped you to become a better person and ready for your grad school, right? Okay? So what about this one? Do you like this? This is also the beginning of the paragraph. He or she writes quite well. Yeah, it's like a fiction, right? Am I reading a fiction? No, I'm reading a personal statement, right? Do I want to know, you know, her mom is, oh, not her mom, right? I mean, I heard he saw her thinking, you know, in a volunteer job, right? And, you know, this is not a small paragraph to describe this experience, right? Once again, just like the beginning when we talked about, we need to be very concise, right? I'm not saying this is a bad, you know, experience to share, right? So there's some content there that is good, but how do you actually deliver it in a more objective way, right? We don't want narrative. We want things to be very objective, right? So these are not. I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, if you do this, yeah, maybe you should go for a history major or you know, a writing major, right? Rather than go for a science major, right? Okay, what about this one? Who thinks this is a good statement? A good starting statement? Okay, the two. Any thoughts about any criticism?
It's a little bit awkward to say like my aspiration is to become a professor.
Say it again.
It's a little bit awkward to like start a paragraph saying that I want to be a professor.
Okay, you think it's a little bit awkward to say that your career aspiration is to become a professor, right?
Kind of.
Okay, and Chloe?
I mean, I like the part that it goes straight to the point, but then if you read like 10 personal statement and 10 personal statement describe the same thing like this, all start with the same starting, like I want to do something, then it will not be different.
Just so you guys know, this guy get into every single schools that he applied for. Yeah, so this person actually gets into every single top tier universities in the US, Yale, Caltech, you name it. Okay, so there's a reason for it. Okay, so agree with what Nicholas said, but if this is what he wants, not a problem, right? He's just speaking his mind. right? So it really depends on where you go, right? I mean, US people tends to be very straightforward. They tell you what they want. They write it to your face, right? So if you go to, if you're in Hong Kong, maybe you find the paragraph a little bit offensive, right? So it really depends on your style. Okay, so but I would say the paragraph has a very clear layout, right? I mean, and these are the kind of things that I mentioned, right? I believe a PhD program will pave the way, right? And you can see that, I mean, this is actually the same paragraph. Right? If you notice, this is actually the same paragraph as the one before. So this is before, this is after. Notice? Okay, so now the reason why I try to show you guys some of these examples is, I mean, by no means I want you to copy or to think about, oh, this is the kind of the formula to do it. Okay, everyone has their distinctive ingredients to put this together, right? But the question is, how do you actually make it sound like, I mean, or describe exactly how your thought logic is? Why are you well prepared for what you do, right? So now I'll give you one last example. Okay, so what about this one? Do you like this one? Should we do another vote? You guys like it? You don't like it? Maybe raise your hands if you like it. Okay, Adrian likes it. So the other 5 of you, why do you not like it? Any thoughts?
I like the overall content, but it can be concise.
It can be more concise, right? Agree?
I think seeing from here, like, there's a lot of words, and it's like all the lines are really overlapping.
Okay. The research part you think is kind of repeating, okay? Serious? Any thoughts?
There are multiple facts, but not exactly telling all about he elaborates, but he or she elaborates on that experience, but it doesn't exactly say what is the experience.
Got it. So I find this particular personal statement also so-so, but okay. Okay, so the reason I said that is because I think he or she is very clear about what she wants, right? But this is a very narrow scope, right? So very defined, very narrow scope, right? So this runs into the reason why I said is it might actually be great for certain people who read it, but other people might read it and find that, you are very narrow-minded, right? So this is taking a risk, okay? But this person also got into the top-tier university, just so you know, okay? So what I'm trying to say today is, you can see that there are different styles, right? Very different style actually, this person and the person before is in the same school. And you can see that the 2 person get into the same university, but with a very different style, right? So there's no one formula fits all kind of situation, right? You are what you are, so you have to go explore what you should write. But I would say all these examples that I showed you is over 2 months of work. Okay, and I'm talking about intensely working towards it. Okay, so you should have started. So I know some of you have started. Okay, but you should have started, and if you have not started yet, you should start now, right? So you have exactly, plus minus 2 months to before the deadline, right? So if you can spend some time with this, it will help. It will surely help shaping your thinking. I think what we have mentioned about personal statement, let's give it a summary, okay? objective, right? I mean, very clear, what I will recommend you guys to do is to first draft a outline, a detailed outline of what you're going to talk about in your paragraphs. And every single paragraph should highlight some of your qualities, some of your research experience, some of your soft skills that make you a better person, right? That shows your maturity, right? That shows you are a competent candidate to get into that particular school. And the objective should be very clear in the first paragraph, right? And every single paragraph eventually should reflect to the point that different qualities eventually help you to better prepare to get into a graduate school. So, but there's one other thing that we did not mention. That is, every single school, I mean, remember we talked about why that program, right? So very likely you like a particular professor's work in that particular program. In other words, you should actually spend time to actually look at the grad school programs that you're interested in. Look for a few professors that, I mean, whatever work that they do align with your research interests, right? And you should also have a small paragraph in your personal statement telling people why you are interested in that school, right? And with that, maybe highlight a couple professors' work, right? And very likely when you get an interview for a particular school, they will also ask you who are the person that you're interested to talk to, right? So you should have done your homework by then. Okay, so these are I would say the know-how and my personal opinion in how a personal statement should be. Any other questions?
Sorry, I'd like to ask about the last point. It's about you said in our personal statement, like for example, probably the last paragraph, make a small paragraph that describes the particular PI or lab research projects that we are interested in. So this paragraph is basically sharing our own research interests instead of actually saying describing our soft skills. Am I right?
Well, I think your soft skills will be already reflected in different paragraphs, right? So when I say you need to have a paragraph that talks about some of the PI's work, I'm more thinking about these are the work that you are interested in, right? These are the area of research that you are interested in, right? And if you were to get in there, you would like to work with these people, right? So it's that simple. I mean, nothing. It's just more of there's a reason why I applied to this school, right? So, okay.
Regarding the concluding sentence for each paragraph, it's like I assume that this quality or soft skill is required by the grad school, right? So how do we know that this quality is necessitated by this school?
Well, I think that is for you to judge, right? I think everyone has different qualities, right? And I would say generally, rule of thumb is I would like to hear what do you think, right? Whatever that you write down, right? How does it reflect you as a person who wants to do science, right? I think, once again, this is not, there's no formula to it, right? So you can say, a lot of things and get to the same conclusion, right? But I think what I want to hear through that paragraph is your scientific maturity and you're mature also as a person, right? Good resilience, right? So these are the kind of important features or qualities being a PhD student. right? Your experiments fails 90% of the time. I mean, can you actually continue with your job? Right? So if I can, without saying that, I can feel that, oh, this person would not fail, right? Then you successfully deliver that thinking towards it. Okay?
Also, I wonder if there's a hardship, whether it is scientific or non-scientific, it entails some narrative to describe the thing, right?
I don't fully understand. Can you try to speak louder?
Normally, we need to elaborate the hardships that we experience, like whether it is scientific or non-scientific.
Sure.
But it seems like we cannot really elaborate what we confronted,
So
what I learned through hardship.
agree. So I would say that generally speaking, right? I'm a very objective person, right? And I want to see how your experience make you a better person, right? I mean, if that's the kind of hardship that you're referring to, right? So I run into certain difficulties. How do you walk out from it, right? What doesn't kill me make me stronger, right? But I generally speaking do not like things to be too personal. Okay, so I don't like, for example, the paragraph that I showed you. I think in one paragraph, he or she says, my mom is a doctor, my dad is a lawyer, and ever since I was a child, I get into this kind of environment, and that cultivates my mind to become a scientist. I don't like that. The reason for that is very simple. There are just too many of these kind of stories out there, right? So I think these also I don't need to know. I don't want to know your mother, what they do. I want to know you. I want to care about you, right? So I want to know what you as a person is about, right? And I would say also refrain a little bit from some of your own conditions, personal conditions. You have to be very carefully construct if you want to tell something about yourself in a very personal way, and I would try to play that, it's a fine line, okay? So one can perceive it in a very different way. Yeah, so try to, if you want to tell people about, for example, your medical conditions, or your certain types of, disability, right? You can, but you have to make sure you be careful in how you deliver that. Okay, so for example, a disabled person, right? You need to, you probably, that should be actually some positive, that there's some positivity to it, because this person, even though despite the disability, they are very, he or she is very eager to do science, right? So, but then, one should also talk about, when I take, the school perspective will all of a sudden be, if I take this person in, do I have the right facility to actually make him a successful scientist in our university, right? For example, right? So I would say there are some considerations, and it will be case by case, and it is important that you make that a little bit more clear in why you bring that up. Okay. Okay. Good. Well, but I should, lastly mention, even though I say you need to be careful, I think, once again, to me, that's your personal experience, and that could be your life-changing event, right? So these kind of personal thing, you want to highlight you know, you don't want to highlight the process of the pain, right? You want to highlight once again, this doesn't kill you. How does it make you stronger, right? Kind of view to it, right? So very important, that part. Yeah, if you were to put some personal experience to it. Okay? Okay, good. So thank you for joining us today. So I hope you get a little bit out from the session.